Good afternoon, folks, and here's the big news from Disney about the Project Luminous, which has apparently been in the works for 2 years at least. And if you don't know, it's something called the High Republic, and it's going to be featuring 5 new stories, or at least brand new stories from 5 authors. So we don't know how many stories, but at least 5 writers are going to be making 5 things. And we'll see that at the end, I believe, with this. So these are probably the titles of books or comics or something. We're not sure exactly. Either way, this was all started back in 2018 on Skywalker Ranch.
We put together a really unique writer's room.
Okay, so there was a writer's room or a writer's room event or a get-together of 17 people. Now, if you know anything about writing with more than one person is very hard. So I don't know if this is just a publicity thing or, hey, I need some friends. Let's throw money at a bunch of writers, have them get together and work together and do stuff and say stuff. Maybe get some artists, draw some sketches. This is all very a little bit too, I don't know, staged? What's the word I'm looking for? Paid for? Not believable? Writers are pretty egotistical. They like butting heads, and they say, this is mine, mine, mine. I'm going to do my own thing, and I'll steal all your ideas, etc., etc. And that's totally fine. So I don't know what process they've got going here. I don't know how this like maybe these guys are all editors, and they choose 5 writers. I have no idea. But Disney's obviously up to something, and they've been doing it for 2 years, which is strange, because if they've been doing something for 2 years, what the hell have these writers been doing for 2 years? You don't just sit around on their laurels going, oh. No, they've been working on something. So unless it's a massive novel or a massive series of novels, what the hell was taking so long? It doesn't take that long to write a book if you're a professional writer and someone is fitting your bill, and that someone is Disney. So I'm skeptical on this. Now, the other thing, which is sort of a chart, there's another chart here, or like this, which is hard to read, so I'm not going to get into that one. But this one's a bit easier to read.
It's unique.
Okay, so I'm going to go over this for a bit. And it's a little strange. It's not horrible. This is just brainstorming, so it could be anything. And any good writer doesn't need ideas. Like, he doesn't need any ideas. He'll take bad ideas, he'll take good ideas, and he or she will make a good story. So if you have a good writer, none of this really matters, because they've already figured it out, they've planned it out, they've written it out. You just got to clean it up, get it to an editor, argue with the editor, blah, blah, blah. You get a good story. That's just how a good writer and how confident they should be. Now, in this case, we have some brainstorming. Let's actually read this. Authentically lived in. This is under the heading of fiction. So the idea of a setting for the High Republic has to be authentically lived in. No kidding. This is not something your average writer would write. He'd be like, no, like, duh. You have to describe your setting. You have to describe how the person enters the room and puts his coat down and takes his shoes off and sits down in his chair. Da 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 da. This is not like anything authentic. Of course it has to be authentic. That's writing. You make something which is believable. Very strange thing to start off with. Second one, surprise. Not sure why surprise is an aspect of fiction, or maybe that's an element they want, so every page is interesting. Like, ooh, a piece of technology pops out of the ground, or an alien pops up their head, or someone dies. There's always all kinds of surprises in different contexts you can take that idea. So that's a common element, but you could say so is mystery, so is suspense. So why surprise, I don't know. Diversity. I don't know what that means in the realm of fiction. What is diverse? The writers are diverse, the language is diverse, the species, the aliens, the cultures, I don't know. This could mean anything. And it's usually seen as a bad thing, as we say, well, why do you have diversity in stories? Why do you need all these races and all these cultures and all these languages? It makes for a convoluted world, unless you're talking about a multicultural society, and that's the point. What is the nature of such interactions? I don't know. I would just have put space opera, because we're talking about fiction, and a subgenre of that would be science fiction, and then a subgenre of that would be space opera, which is what Star Wars is. And we all know space operas or Star Wars or Star Trek just has a multitude of aliens. It's a given. You're going to be writing about aliens. None of this the diversity thing matters. Now, maybe there's going to be some characters who are racially motivated or culturally motivated. That's fine. That's good. It's how you do it that matters. That's why I said none of this is either going to be great or horrible. It's all up to a good writer to take that and know how to present it well. Another one which catches my eye in the fiction department is actual ending. This to me means that whatever 5 stories or whatever authors stories from these 5 authors are going to be is going to have a definitive ending, which is kind of expected. This is what you do with writing. You have a beginning, a middle, and an end. So it's not going to be some open-ended thing where you just keep going and it never stops. So that's actually a good thing that they actually say, hey, we're going to have an ending. I'm just curious what kind of discussion they had about that, because that then says, if you finish your story, then I start mine, and then we get to the end, which we all agreed upon. That's cool. That's a good planned out idea, if that is in fact the plan. Feelings. This fiction should have feelings. Yes, that's true. They should have characters who have feelings, and they do things for reasons which are based off emotions like love or lust or piety or any kind of desire, really. So this is like saying, hey, you know what? Cake should have sugar in it. It's like, that's a good idea. Yeah. Steak should come from a cow. Yes, it should. Yes, that's a good idea. Kind of a given. Again, relatable characters. Here we go. This is where I'm like, okay, are these writers in the room? Did you know your characters should be relatable? That's like saying, do you know your sentences should be readable? You know, it's also a good idea to have black ink on white paper. That's a great idea too. What else? Periods at the ends of sentences, indents, margins, titles, page numbers. Yes, these are all good things you have in writing. Just so if anyone doesn't know how this writing thing works. So sweeping epic, that's fine. It's relatable to genre. So you want an epic story, you want a big story that connects to big things or multiple stories, multiple characters. That's normal. There is the epic style, and we've seen that in modern times as well as historical times. That's good to know that they're doing things on a bigger level, hence why they need so many people, I would imagine. And humor, and that could mean many things. That's always a big topic in at least in my writing circles, where writing humor is not everyone can do it. So to do it is difficult, and to add it in is an extra level of complexity. So someone on the board or someone on the writer's room was like, hey, I want to do humor, or hey, we should use humor. Very hard. They could have written romance. They could have written any other number of plots, like horror or styles. And that would have been interesting too, to give you an idea of where this is all headed. So it looks to be a basic adventure science fiction story that happens to involve Star Wars. Now, if you actually read the Star Wars section, it's very basic, not pro-war. That's fine. Droids. The scope is going to be epic, mythical, magical, space and lightsaber battles. Yep. No single character. That's fine. The Force. Yep. Complicated monsters. That's totally fine. There's nothing wrong. Again, there's nothing good either. It's just that's basically a list of Star Wars attributes. So this is where we get into some weird stuff. If fiction was not generic and weird enough at all. Star Wars wishes. So this is what the guys who are putting this list say, what do they want? The High Republic, again, whatever that is they were talking about, which I'm assuming is just the Old Republic, just later on in years. Relic Hunters, okay, so they're looking for Jedi and Sith stuff, I imagine. A university. Now, this is not a Jedi university. This is just a school or a higher learning place. Could have multiple implications. Dinosaurs. Now, as soon as I heard that, I thought of Jurassic Park. I mean, there's so many alien creatures in Star Wars. You can do anything. You may as well have terrible lizards or terrible anything. So that's cool. I'm not, again, these are not bad or good ideas. It's how you present them. You could have an entire race of giant dinosaurs who are intelligent and force wielders, and that could work. It could. I just don't know how. So here we have another thing, which, again, could be good or bad, but as a principle of what we've seen Disney do and what we've seen writers do is bad. So they use this thing as a tool, not for the purpose of telling a good story, but for the purpose of having a soapbox, and that is representation of minorities, I imagine, and diversity. So this is kind of odd because we already have a setting. We have Star Wars. It's a space opera. It's already diverse. It's already multifaceted. You've got every imagination possible to make an alien or a dinosaur or a creature or some fun gadget or some speeder or something like that. We've already got that. We don't need to then talk about, oh, well, this race is being destroyed by that race, which could work. Again, this all could work, but it depends on how they do it. So if they want to tell a story about racial disparity between a species, like maybe not as blatant as that old Star Trek episode where one guy's painted face was white on one side and black on the other, and then they hated each other because the guy had black on his left side of his face. You know, that sort of obvious message to racism. But these things can work. Just historically from Disney and from modern stories and comic books, not a good sign. Arthurian legends. Now, this is where I sort of go, that could work. The problem is, if you look at some of the artwork later on, they show like this Knights of the Round Table sort of idea, and that's fine. The imagery's fine. It just looks a little strange. It looks like they're all sort of championing their lightsabers like it's a big deal. Like maybe this is a salute. Maybe this is a war cry. It doesn't look very Jedi-like. Jedis are peaceful dudes. They don't hold their weapons up in the air and spin them around like they're conquering a castle. Okay, so I'm curious where that's going, and you have to know your Arthurian legend or your Arthurian lore, which I used to know. It's been a while, but it's a very specific style.
Storytelling, but this is unique. And
so, yeah, could be good, could be bad, could be a mess. I do recall that Arthur went into his sleep, an eternal sleep, ready to be woken up whenever his desires or he was required to come back to save people, which I thought they were going to do with Revan in the Old Republic, but that just ended up being a mini-boss. So, yeah, Revan got the short end of the stick when it comes to continuity or continuation of his story. Or why he was written that way, I don't know. Rival houses. Now, this is interesting. This is a common element in space operas. You could go to Dune. You can go to, just any of the Asimov stories. There's all sorts of people vying for power, political intrigue, subterfuge, all sorts of great little wars and despots running around. So, common stuff, very good. Lots of dirty things happening. Spies and assassins. Great stuff there. Sith Empire, yep, you gotta do that. That's kind of good, especially when you're talking about the High Republic where the Jedi are reigning supreme. So you have to have some sort of stories of the Sith Empire. Chaos agents, no idea what that is. And a splinter group, Force users, which sounds cool. So you'll have variations of Dark Jedi or Light Sith. I don't know the actual terms. Gray Jedi, perhaps. That would work pretty cool. Okay, I think that's enough as I got from there.
The same way that you would when you're making a movie.
We even had Ian McKay come down and just do sketch after sketch for us. When you have
Okay, so you have all these artists working. I'm assuming they're doing a comic book, or else they wouldn't have sketches. Like, you wouldn't spend all this time and money on sketches to write a novel. That's a waste of time. A good writer does not need dozens and dozens of pieces of artwork. He has more than enough ideas. He doesn't need visual aids to do that. They're beautiful. I'm not saying they're wrong or they're not going to help, but they're not necessary. So if this is just to throw money at the problem, hey, talk to Bob, talk to Ian, talk to this artist. It's like, yeah, okay, thank you, Disney, but we don't need that.
Our story starts.
Star Wars, but a series of events that will dangerous new. It'll get heroes rise up.
The cool thing about this is that there's going to be a story for every Star Wars fan.
Okay, so there's going to be a story for every Star Wars fan. Oh boy. If we've learned anything in the past, few years about Star Wars, there are intelligent Star Wars fans, and then there's a lot of crazy Star Wars fans. A lot of crazy. And I don't mean just the extremes, like, they'll watch the trailer hundreds and hundreds of times. They'll just like anything Star Wars. So I don't know what that means because it's such a broad term, but that means essentially people who like love stories in The Last Jedi or The Rise of Skywalker, or think there is a love story in there. Who do you cater to? Unless you're a hardcore Star Wars fan. It's hard to say. I don't know where they're going with that.
It's really fun to be able to keep readers on the...
So this is more of an anime style looking. Not necessarily Japanese, but bigger eyes, so more cartoony, more for kids. I could see that working. That's cool.
This era is ripe for storytelling.
You know what was ripe for storytelling? Star Wars. It always has been. And that's why we had Legends in the EU. And Disney did away with it. And now they're trying to bring it back, or bring their own version back after all this time of holding on to this property, wasting money, or wasting time and money. And now they're going to do their own thing. When everyone knew they wanted to see the Old Republic, we have fan films, dozens of them on YouTube, about Revan or the Old Republic, or some aspect of war. People aren't waiting around. These things are out there already. Now we come to a very, very strange topic, which sort of finished off the video, and my thoughts on the matter. Here we go.
The eureka moment was the question, what scares the Jedi?
Okay, so the eureka moment is what scares the Jedi. I can tell you what scares the Jedi. The Sith. That's all. The Jedi are taught to control their emotions. So anything which is contrary to that, which causes them to lose their faith, is what they are scared of, because Jedi do not have those emotions in general. They are in control of their emotions. The Sith, however, use all kinds of emotions, like aggression, to become more powerful. So, logically speaking, anything opposite to that would make them scared of that thing. Anything that caused them to lose their faith. I believe that was a topic or theme in KOTOR 2, the concept of betrayal, or losing yourself, or going to the side. And it was an interesting topic as well when you talk about Revan, who did not consider his behavior betrayal. He considered doing what was necessarily good for life, for helping people. So he had to go and seek other means than the Jedi to save millions of lives. So that eureka moment, to me, means these people either aren't Star Wars fans or never bothered to actually read the lore or play the games or watch the movies or yada yada, or understand what it meant to be a Jedi. Again, all this is neither good nor bad, because a good writer can take this and run with it and do magic. The probability, though, of that happening is very slim, as we've seen in recent years with major motion pictures. So those are my thoughts on the topic, guys. I'm sure you have all sorts of ideas of where this can go and how this should be done. I'd love to hear them, because I'm not the foremost expert on Star Wars on YouTube, that is for certain. I tend to surround myself with people who know more than me, and I'll be asking them what they think. And please do share your opinions. I appreciate it. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you later.